I'm going to invite her in. There she is. Wow. Okay. Thank God. First of all, how cute are you?
Thank you.
Okay, so I can't see. I needed these, but I don't want to be like, hello. So, and like I've never done a Facebook Live and an interview before. Well, I've done interviews, but so I was like such a spaz. And but anyway.
You did
Hi.
off.
Yay.
Well,
oh my gosh, congratulations on this big day. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling very excited. It's been a labor of love, and I'm so excited to share it with everyone. So,
oh my gosh. Okay, so for starters, this is my friend and my just sister, and she is Stephanie Lee. And anybody who wants to be friends with her, please follow her. And she's an author and she's a therapist. Tell everybody a little bit about you.
So I am a therapist. Sorry. I am a therapist. I, coined myself as a lifestyle mastery / relationship expert. I love relationships, so that's my focus, but I've dealt with people in transformation. I've dealt with people with severe mental illness. I've dealt with people who have addiction issues. So I've kind of been around the block in terms of helping people. For me, relationships is the foundation of human connection. Everything goes back to that. So that is why I'm so passionate about it. And something that my friends and I are always talking about is relationships. So about a year and a half ago, I was driving, no radio, very silent, just kind of focused. And sometimes a long drive could be like a good form of meditation. And so I just got this idea for this book. I have no idea where it came from. But I definitely feel like everything happens for a reason. And I got the idea for the book and I started playing around with the idea, and, now we're here. So that's
wow. So what's the title of the book?
So the title of the book.
Can you show the book cover, please?
Which I have right here.
Dun, da, da, da.
Yeah.
Successfully Single, Choice or Destiny. What do you mean choice or destiny?
So Successfully Single, Choice or Destiny, I'm going to hold it up like Vanna White here, is basically a play on words. So usually when we hear the word successfully single, we automatically think, oh, I'm successful and I'm single. And so from the conversations that, I had, before I got married, the conversations I continue to have with friends and, even people, I do Married at First Sight review videos, and somebody actually just
I love when you do that. Yes. We're going to talk about that in a second, but keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, somebody just sent me a message asking me questions about their relationship. So we're always talking about it. So I was thinking about, some of the changes that I've had to make in the last few years just for myself, which resulted in a relationship. And so I was thinking about, what if we have gotten so successful at being single that we remain single because of that? And so here are these roadblocks that we have that we don't really understand, or we don't really see, or we can't really have a conversation about. Because, honestly, the difference between men and women is that men can have these, ugly conversations with each other, and then they go have a drink and they move on. Women, we don't do that very well.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about how to, merge the two worlds. Like, this book for me is so special because it merges the two things that I love the most. I love entertainment and I love therapy and I love working with people. So I'm like, how is it that we can engage people in reading something that they could get pulled into, like a narrative form, something that really translates like a movie or like a TV series, but is somewhat resonant of maybe things that they wouldn't really be looking for, but are reflected in some of these characters. And that's part one.
So that's how the book is written. So it's not like a therapy book or like a self-help book. It's like sounds like Sex in the City.
It's a mashup. Yeah? Sex in the City and Auntie Oprah's, like, Find Yourself weekends is what it is.
Okay.
Like, part one introduces you to these characters where ideally you say, hey, I know that person, or I am that person. And then part two translates you to the part where I actually dictated this part so that I could sound exactly like me. And how I interact with these characters, how they begin to interact with each other, because this is only part one. And then it ends with a mini workbook, because I think that it's not enough that we just read something good or we watch something good. Everything I watch, down to reality TV, I take something from it. I'm like, okay, how could I apply that to my life? Like, it doesn't matter what it is, just anything. So I wanted to add a component that, not forced people, but prompted people to want to take an introspective look at themselves and see, okay, what can I do differently? Or how am I showing up continuously? And the idea isn't to get into a relationship. The idea is to have the best relationship that you can have with yourself, because that's the one that you can control. And then throughout that journey, you know, timing will lead you where you want to be. But I just want to stress out, the most important relationship is the one you have with yourself. So it all comes back to self, and
You're
it's
just
all about
wanting me to make jokes about loving yourself. I'm gonna just be honest. I'm trying to be a good host here, and you're like lobbing it out in front of me. So my people on here, I have to represent. Like, everyone knows what I want to ask. But so I'm gonna say it and not be gross, but how do you love yourself? I mean, you know, like the way you mean it, not the way I mean it.
Right.
I'm so sorry. I always have to bring it to the gutter, but my people love that.
Well, how do you love yourself? First of all, you got to be honest with yourself. I think a lot of us are not honest with ourselves, you know, and I've struggled with that. So everything comes from me recognizing where I've been and like wanting to help people filter through that. Like, I don't think we're honest with ourselves and where we are, where we want to be, some of our issues. You know, if you ask us, you know, what makes us great, or why should we be in a relationship, or why should we have that job, or why should we be chosen for XYZ? We point out all the things that make us worthy of that. And that's important, and those things are valid, but maybe let's have the conversation that isn't so fun of why those things are not coming to fruition. How are you showing up in a way that is limiting you from whatever it is that you're trying to achieve? And part of it is really willing to look at it. And a lot of people struggle with looking at it. And it's not a fun process. Like, even today, you know, and it doesn't end with singlehood or getting married. You're always having to look at it, but getting comfortable with standing naked with yourself. Let's go back to the gutter. And then and then saying, hey, I don't like this, and it's okay not to like it. I can still value myself and still want to work on myself. You know, one doesn't like wash out the other. Well, I have to 100% love myself in order to really value. No, I can value myself. I read Oprah's book called What I Know for Sure. And one of, you know, it's little excerpts of what she's learned in her life and various lessons. And one of the things that she said was she focused on her weight for so many years. And you know, every moment, and we all kind of have that struggle where we look in the mirror and we say, I don't like this, I don't like that. And she said there was a time where she had a heart condition, or she thought she had a heart condition, and all of a sudden the superficial didn't matter. And so she said, I spent all this time saying I don't love this about my body, and now when something really serious is happening, you know, that's the last thing, you know. So why am I not spending time loving myself, pouring in the energy of loving myself while continuing to work on myself, which is very different than just pointing out what we don't like about ourselves. So
Good point.
Yeah, one doesn't wash it.
Let me make note that we're getting a lot of really fun comments, and Jen Urizio, Christine, everybody, hi. I think Jen is gonna, hey Nicole, I think Jen Urizio is going to be on our Facebook tonight. I think she's coming over.
Awesome.
I'm like, come over, we'll get a pizza. No, and we'll do Facebook. She's great, so she'll join in.
Awesome.
You brought up something really interesting, and you know, I'm divorced, and I've been divorced for a good number of years, and I have a very healthy relationship with Eric, my son. He's 13, his dad. And I'm in a really wonderful relationship now for about almost 2 years. But for that time period leading into meeting my boyfriend, you know, I felt like I was in the movie He's Just Not That Into You. And or I would be into somebody and they wouldn't like mirror that, or vice versa, you know? And though it probably happened more like, you know, it would have been nice if and then of course I went, well, maybe they don't like me because, and then I do the Oprah thing, you know. But what do you say to the people that, you know, I even see it in sports, right? Like, we all think our child is a really gifted athlete, or the best singer, or the best whatever. And, you know, no one thinks they've got an ugly baby. Right? Everyone thinks their baby's beautiful, but I've seen some really ugly babies out there. Not mine, of course, because mine's awesome. But, you know, like, how do you know when you're not in everyone else's, like, none of us share the same reality, but you know, more or less we're all on the same page kind of. But what if you don't know that you're even that girl he's just not that into?
Well, okay, that's a good question. I think that
Mm,
we have to define what it is before we go into it. So a lot of times, just speaking for women, a lot of times we go with this wishful thinking. We go hoping, we go for the person who is clearly indicative in all his ways of not
yeah.
wanting to be bothered in any facet. And we hope that will change it. And I think if we came in with a narrative, or what I call non-negotiables, and it doesn't have to be like, here I am, this is what you need to do. But if you came in a healthier mental state of what it is that you want and what it is that you don't want, and you kept being met with what you don't want, it's actually very simple.
Mm,
And men can really do it. They do what they want, they do what they don't want. And that's just really it. For us, because we're such nurturers, we kind of try to till that soil and make it change. Well, that's not really your job. Within a relationship where both people are reciprocal and both people are wanting to be a part of it, that's very different. That's when you till that soil. But you can't, do that with somebody who's not willing to do that. So just getting, that's why the mindset is so important. Just getting into it with a frame of mind that you're honoring and valuing yourself and not
yeah.
putting whoever or whatever before you, that changes the whole game. And so you're able to see, because there are red flags all the time and we have our black and white shades on. And so it's
I
like,
know.
why don't we see that? And that
But
is
those
so,
red flags, Stephanie, they're so darn cute. And
they're
for
very
that
pretty.
5 seconds that you're on that date, and then before he doesn't call you, it's so fun. It's
Right.
exciting. And it's what we make our, like, this life. I was such a good dater. I fell in love though, like, while I was dating. And that's hard, that's fun. But when it's not right relationship and you fall in love, that's difficult, and then that's difficult to get over. And I
It
know
is.
that person is watching. So,
It is.
like,
Hi.
it's just interesting. And I don't know, is it like how you're supposed to get together? Maybe how much of it is timing and how much of it is ignoring red flags, or what's the advice there? Because when I was dating, I finally did a lot of work. So truth be told, I talked to people. I went to seminars. I did Landmark. Like, I thought there
Mhm.
must be something about singlehood that is feeding me, that
Right.
I must like to complain that I'm single or something. I don't know what it was. I still didn't diagnose it, and I guess it doesn't matter now. But there was something about it that was serving me.
Right.
And I feel like I was becoming an Eeyore, like in Winnie the Pooh. Eeyore, like, must be
Yeah.
nice that you're in love, must be
Right.
nice that you found a boyfriend. And
Yeah.
I just had to get rid of that stuff, which is kind of
Right.
what you're suggesting we do, right? The
Absolutely.
characters in
It's
your
all
book, is this kind of what I mean, I read the books, but I'm talking as if
yeah.
for everybody else.
Yeah.
Like, maybe take us through the characters and see if we can just kind of, in a quick thing, small, but let's see if we can
Yeah.
identify. I know who I am already in this group, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure everybody else knows who I was in this group too. I hope
Yeah.
my mom's not watching, but um, hit me, hit me with these
So
names and people.
to answer the question before, really, there is a timing factor. Like, I'm a faith girl, so I feel like God's timing is always the perfect thing and it's always the determining factor. But I feel like if you're somebody who's in a constant evolution and always looking within self, I think that is when you're, better posed to find yourself in something that will be fruitful for your mind, body, and spirit. And some people just aren't doing that. And that's where we're struggling. We're
Mm.
struggling with these like Groundhog Day type relationships, or Groundhog
Yeah.
Day pseudo situationships. And, for women specifically, I think when we have an eye opening moment, or we'll call it the aha moment. Hi, Oprah. We'll call it the aha moment, where it's like, you know, okay, this is really what I want. And no matter, the love is clouding. But when you kind of look at it very black and white and say, these are the things that I want, and although I love this person, he or she is like, absolutely not, I'm not going to give you that. Then it's kind of like, wait a minute. Is this really what I want? No, it's
right.
not, you know, and when you have that, that's why I said, you know, the biggest thing you can do for yourself is just be honest. Say you don't look good in that skirt. Get in the mirror and say, I don't look good in this skirt, and then give it away. Like, if we can just be honest.
I've given away bags of stuff, by the way. Like, I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So, hey, Mackenzie. Hey, Elise.
That I let go of.
Yeah. Right. Oh my gosh. So, all right. Talk to me about the characters. Just like one-liners.
Okay.
Are they like a Golden Girls, but young and sexy?
So the characters, I wanted to represent every type of woman, and there are plenty more that I could do, but these are kind of the ones that I just threw out there. So the first character is meet Rosalind, socially awkward and single. So we're talking about someone who, as you read it, you'll realize, you know, she is a little aloof. She kind of doesn't know how to be outside of herself. She operates in her mind. She kind of, you know, has these conversations that makes her these really great girls, and she can't really exhibit that. And so the social aspect takes her away from really being able to push through. And then as you learn a little bit about her and you learn her history, you realize why she is the way she is. So with these characters, I also gave history, stuff that is very realistic. You know, Rosalind's father did not show up. You know, no wonder there's certain issues that keep recurring, and there's certain ways that her mother dealt with it that gave her the message of, this is how you deal with stuff. And our parents don't say, deal with this stuff this way. We just watch them. We're sponges. We watch how they deal with it, and we just transition that into,
and we think that's the right way, and then we grow up and realize they're really just human, and and that wasn't the smartest way. So Rosalind has the daddy issues.
And I mean,
all right,
everybody kind of sprinkles in with their history of, like, not
everybody has daddy issues, is what you're saying.
Not everybody, but they, you know, it's not one daddy.
Fair enough. When in doubt, blame your parents.
Right.
So it's fine. Who do we have next?
Okay, so who we have next is, you know, meet Sheila, hopelessly hopeful. So she's very hopeful, very optimistic. She is the you know, the postcard writer. She writes things all over the place. You know, she's optimistic, affirmations, all of these things. And she has this list is like unforgiving. So we all have been there where we wrote that unforgiving list that he has to be 6'2". You know, he has to be, you know, doing X, Y, Z. And it's like, well, why can't this work out? And it's like, we're not realizing that relationships require to be very malleable in different aspects of life. You're not malleable by yourself. It's not really gonna work when you're moving forward with somebody else, because you're just gonna have to be. There's just no way that you can't compromise. So that's just a little snapshot of Sheila, and you get to see her interact with who she interacts with. So that's Sheila. Veronica is giving it to get it. So Veronica is the good time girl, and she finds her value in kind of, you know, just treating men as appendages, and and she has a good time, and it is what it is. But and there's no judgment there. Why Veronica is struggling is because that's not really what she wants to do. So it's one thing if you're a woman and you're like cool with that and it doesn't bother you and that's, you're happy, whatever. But if you're, whatever tool you're using, if that tool doesn't serve you, then it doesn't work. So that's cool, and kind of pretending to be okay with just the casual nature of that is not working for her. And so you get to watch her process, and it's quick snapshots, but you get to get enough of that to realize, okay, what is on the surface isn't really what lies behind that. Yeah. So that's
all right. We know I'm a little of that character, but the truth is I love love, and I really wanted everyone, like, I don't think girls, well, maybe they do. This Veronica did, like, you know, you almost start off with being okay going into it thinking it's a one-night stand. I never thought it that way. I really just bought into the fairy tale every darn single time, you know, like, oh, I'm meant to be stranded here at the gate on a layover. I met this you know, and then you tell yourself such a story that when even just a quarter of it manifests itself, you think the kind of thing where you're like, wow, this just isn't right, but you fooled yourself thinking it was. So I feel for Veronica.
Okay,
just saying.
Yes, I love Veronica too. So
we're asking what the book title is. Do you want to, let's hold up the book
yeah,
again.
yeah. So the book title is called Successfully Single, Choice or Destiny. So the Choice or Destiny tagline, for those who are just now getting in, the Successfully Single is a play on words. So it's not about being successful and single as it is being so successfully being single that if you desire a relationship, you're not finding it because there's some sort of roadblock that we're not really addressing. The Choice or Destiny tagline means eventually if you go through your own personal journey, it becomes a choice, which you're okay with because that's a choice. Or if you don't get out of your own way, it becomes destiny. So it's kind of like taking you through this whole thing and seeing what needs to work. And eventually it works, but does it work in your favor or not? So that's kind of like the play on words with that.
And where people are private messaging me asking, like, tell us where we can buy the book already. So tell us where we can buy the book already. And then we'll get on with the rest of the people.
Okay, so it's available 2 places. Limited availability for signed copies are on www.iamsuccessfullyme.com. So I'll say that website again, iamsuccessfullyme.com, and then it's available on Amazon as well.
Awesome. And I see, Edmund Lee, who I think we might know him. Anyway, he wrote the URL in there. So
Awesome.
just check the feed because there it is. So
okay.
Did we cover all the characters or are we missing somebody?
No, we're missing some. So I'm going to run through these. Meet Diane.
Okay.
Diane is married to a dream. So Diane is the girl who is in a relationship with a guy who just doesn't want to commit. And years go by and they play that game. And, he gives her a little bit more every time. So she feels like she's making progress, but she's not, there's that girl. And a lot of us
I'm feeling her.
Exactly. So there's Diane.
We all know someone like that.
There's Leslie. Leslie is the it girl. Leslie is the girl that everyone would never assume struggled with relationships. She's like the girl that everybody wants to be, and she has her own stuff going on and you don't really know about it. She's rich, she's a trust fund baby, and so it's like, oh, well, she's rich. Why does she have problems? And because she is dating, people just assume that she just doesn't want to be in a relationship. And so, beyond the surface, you really get to see Leslie's pain about that. Simone is the mistress. Simone finds herself very attracted to married men. And, when you read a little bit about her history and how she came to be, she finds ways to justify why this behavior is acceptable, even though she 100% knows it's not. And you get to see the dualities of that. And then the last character is meet Gina, divorced and doubtful. So Gina is a mom who's divorced. She has, a 3-year-old, and you get to see her navigate where that marriage ended, how she struggled with that, and how she's looking to get back into the dating game. So
yeah, someone just said really great character details, and that's why I agree, because they're just fun and real, and I think we all have, not verbatim, but we all have a little bit of ourselves in each of these women. Absolutely. Even for men, I mean, we all kind of characterize ourselves in little pockets of that. So it's wonderful. I agree with you. Give me some secrets, like 3 secrets to making sure you have a great relationship. Hit me.
Okay. So, people say communication and everybody's like, womp, communication, but it's so, people keep saying that because that's a really big deal. It's not enough to just say it, but you really have to communicate well and learn what that means for your significant other. So one of the biggest things for me in communication is learning intentionality, because guess what? We're not always our best selves. We don't always say things in the best way. But do I know the intention of my boyfriend or girlfriend? Do I know the intention of my significant other or my spouse? If I do, and I think about it, that gives me more patience. If I know my husband snaps in a way that isn't his norm, the intention of who I know this man to be gives me more patience with him, and vice versa. So not only good communication, but how to communicate with your spouse or your boyfriend or girlfriend, because that changes a lot of things. That really decreases, a lot of unnecessary arguments or miscommunication, because you just get it out. You're open to hearing each other, and you trust that what you're saying is what you're really saying and what you really mean.
Right.
So that's one.
True.
Yeah,
that's true.
That's one. 2, I would say, still like taking time for yourself. I think people get in this little fairy tale thing where they're like, oh, two become one, or if you're in a long-term relationship, this is us and it's us against the world, which, yeah, in the grand scheme of things it is, but you still are an individual in some capacity, and you have to give your spouse room to be that way. You know, if you're hanging out with friends or doing things that make them happy, like you want them to flourish, you know, their passion projects, their work, you want them to flourish and be able to share that together, rather than kind of like dispose of individual things and everything has to be the, you know, the same, or operating in the same relationship. It's just, it's not realistic. And you want to be able to include each other in the things that you love and make it a we thing, while it's maybe a he thing. You know, I can support you in this. You know, my husband's commenting on this and he read the book, and, you know, I mean, he's super excited about it. So it's like allowing each other to really operate as best as they can in that space and supporting them in that. So that's another thing that I would say. Let's see. Just
we have a question in here. Our friend said that was good. What is the intent of your significant other?
The intent is, okay, if you know that you're, and I'd like to say that everyone's significant other is a great person. I hope that they are. But a lot of times when we get very, you know, emotional and passionate and we say things we don't, you know, mean, we hold on to that. And I can't believe so-and-so said that. And not that it's acceptable. So we're not excusing it, but like, you know, your significant other to be a person who cherishes you, ideally, or who respects you, or who really wouldn't say that, or really wouldn't want you to feel that way. So sometimes we have to take that beat, take that pause, and realize the intention of that person really meant this. Did they come across in the right way? No. Do they need to probably apologize for that? Yes. But the intention of that person is not to be a nasty person that's willfully trying to hurt me. And so that gives you a little bit of patience. And that is, you know, that might sound to people like, oh, I couldn't do that. But if you want a life with someone, you're going to have to. Because everything can be a thing. So that's kind of what I mean by the intention. Like, is there intention to hurt me, or is there intention to maybe say something and it didn't come across a good way? It doesn't always work that way, but we want it to work more like that than we don't, because then you're always in like a tailspin of an argument.
Exactly. I know we were discussing secrets, and we can get back to them, but what about social media? Like, we're on social media right now. Right. I know so many people that their marriage was boring. They were the couple sitting in a restaurant, not talking to each other. you know, you can say, oh, they're married, and then the two people talking, or they're on a date, and, you know, or they haven't been together very long. So, but what does social media bring for them? I know so many of those people, the not talking in restaurants, and then they meet up with an old, you know, boyfriend or girlfriend on Facebook, and they reconnect. And I mean, we all heard that story. So is social media helping us or hurting us with dating and relationships?
So it's doing both. And I think it's doing what you allow it to do. For my singles, I would say social media can help you in terms of like expanding your reach, and but it can hurt you depending on how you're showing up. Are you showing up in a way that you believe that you're showing up? The way that you might be showing up on social media might be like fun for like a good time, girl, but maybe somebody doesn't want to take you seriously based off that. So you have to be realistic, and you have to be cognizant of how you're showing up, because that's all that people know. They don't know the real you. So if they see whatever facade you choose to show, whether that be real or not, then that's all that people have to go off of. So I would tell singles to just be really careful, you know, be mindful. And even though you're fun and you're sexy, because, you know, I love all of that, just what's the goal here? If you're looking for something a little more sedentary, then it's kind of like if we're going to the office, then, you know, I might have this on. But if I'm meeting you for drinks, there might be a little cleavage. You never know. You know what I'm saying? Like, how are you?
That is a really nice outfit, even for the office. I'm thinking you look pretty hot for the workplace. I mean, seriously, if you wear that to the office I'd be at, I'm like, I'm quitting, because she looks too cute. Sexy. Like, she's sewing, like, you know, she's moisturized.
So first,
whatever.
Yes. be mindful of how you're showing up, because that's how you're being received, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
For married people or people in long-term relationships, you know, it can make or break depending on, you know, how you choose to use it. I think that nothing makes you do anything. It's kind of like money. Like, you know, a large amount of money just is it reflects more of who you are. So if you're already a shady person, you're gonna just use social media to do that. If you're someone who's respectful, then you're going to do that. Yes, there's more access, but it's already got to be in you for you to kind of just want to utilize that tool in a way that is not going to serve your relationship. So I don't want people to give social media too much power, because we really have blamed social media for a lot of stuff, and we're the users. Like, you can't, social media doesn't use us, we use it. So you're really in more control than you think. And when you feel yourself spinning, or when you feel yourself maybe heading towards a direction, because what we continue to feed our minds is, you know, results in our actions, you need to take a pause. You need to get off, or you need to, you know, sometimes I just take a day or two, because some of the chaos and dysfunction just gets on my nerves, and it translates into my day. And I'm like, okay, it's not really that important. So I just need to take a pause. So whatever it is that you need, always with the goal in mind: healthy relationships, or a healthy sense of self, healthy mental space. And so with social media specifically, because it's so prevalent in our lives, I would really like take control of that.
And so I met my boyfriend Rudy on a dating website, and how you show up there, I mean, if you write it in a certain way, you could really fall into the stereotypes of your characters.
Yeah.
And so you might think you're attracting, you just want that nice guy who's totally cute, has an edge, sexy, you know, whatever. But because of what you're putting out there, it's very much like, so I'm in, as you know, the marketing industry and PR, and I was a TV producer. So my whole career has been about sending out a message. And what's interesting is I went about that same way on my online dating profile. Like, I was marketing myself, you know? So what advice do you have? We have so many single friends on here right now. If they are online, how can they show up a little more authentically, but not look like that dowdy whatever character? You know what I mean? Like the introvert person. Like, how can they kind of show up, be fun, but not be the good time girl?
I would say don't overthink it. I think when we go into, excuse me, when we go into like a dating website, we overthink it. We make it more than what it has to be. You know, all of a sudden it needs to be like, I need to be, you know, a goddess, you know, like, no, like it's not, it really isn't that deep. I think what trips us up is the way that we think that we need to show up. And so then it's almost like, instead of, it's like having a casual conversation with your friend. And then if somebody says, hey, I'm going to record this, then all of a sudden you sit up straight and you're like, ha ha ha.
It's true.
You're laughing different. You're like, you don't laugh.
It's true.
It's the first date. Like, I don't, you know, with my husband, when we went on our first date, I barely finished my food. I barely touched it, because I was like, oh my God, you know, I'm not that hungry. And I couldn't wait for him to drop me off so that I could eat, for real. Like, and he wanted to like come in and use the bathroom, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm starving. Like, hurry up.
You're like, I hope he doesn't get the chips.
Right.
So speaking of your husband, can we talk a little bit about him? Is he around? Like,
he is around. Lee, he is around.
Where is he?
I just.
How did you guys meet? Did you meet through social media, or you met through a friend, or what's your story?
We met in college.
In college?
We did.
Oh, educated types. Okay. No, that's awesome.
He was reading.
Was it Love at First Sight?
So turned on, huh?
Was it Love at First Sight?
It was something that could lead to that. I would, because I don't believe that love. Like, I feel like when you love someone, you have to love them, and you have to know them. Like, I don't get into that whole fairy tale. I loved him before I knew him. No, because I want you to love the good. That's interesting. And to really say I love you is to like really go, like, I'm a ride or die. Okay. So I really go through it with you, and you go through it. That's when that true love for me that can sustain things. That's what that means. So, when I first saw him, I was like very attracted to him, and there was something there that I knew could lead into that. And so that's what I'll say for that.
Interesting. Let's bring him on.
See?
Oh my gosh, that's Love at First Sight for me. I love you.
I mean, how could you not? You know what I'm saying? But
oh my gosh. So hi everyone, this is Edmund.
hello, Edmund.
Obviously, I'm very good friends with both of these lovely people. So Ed, what do you think of the book? It's our launch day. Are you excited?
I am. I'm excited. Of course, I was the first person to read it, most likely. Yeah. So I was reading it, and even when she was creating it, it was really interesting. It only took her like a couple of weeks to do it once she decided, because she would get in the zone and just type away. It was just like, It was interesting. I couldn't talk to her for a little while. I had to just kind of do my own thing and creep around the house. But and I had already thought to myself, like, wow, this is going to be great for her audience, right? Like, for them, not something I would read, because I just don't, and I'm not a Sex and the City guy. I watched some with her, of course, but I just didn't think it was my type of thing. I'm into the self-help and factual type of stuff. And so I had to read it.
Yes.
When I read
it,
I found myself like, I started to not care that it was my wife's book. I liked it because it was interesting. Like, it was funny. Mm-hmm. My wife is funny. A lot of people that know
she is funny. She is very funny.
Sometimes a little dark, witty humor that you don't catch if you're not quick enough on it. And that's in the book. And then some of the people, I'm like, man, this sounds like so-and-so or so-and-so. So it became a guessing game. And of course, she's like, no, it's not so-and-so. It's nobody. It's just, but what it realized is that so many people have some of the similar things going on that you can kind of put them in there. And even when she was talking about the men that they were dating, I'm like, whoa, are you talking about us? Like, I was like, is that me? Was I like? And then she would just, get quiet all of a sudden. So it's
I love
book,
that.
even for men, because it doesn't go so airy. It's not like just the characters. It comes back to a place where they actually get stuff that works, that they can work on. And I think that can happen for male and female.
Yeah, I will share with everybody in my world who knows me. It's not woo-woo. It's not, it's fun. It's great. You see yourself in a bit of everyone. You kind of are like a voyeur who just kind of peeks into everybody's life, a bit. And so, and then you learn kind of woulda, coulda, shoulda, what to do. And then you think, crud, I wish I had that book when I was, when I was dating. And then you think of 5 friends that you have to buy it for, and then you do. So, there's that. So that's great. So you guys have been married for how long now? Just celebrated a
year.
1 year anniversary.
Yep.
Let's talk. I was going to do it baby months. I was going to say, was it 12 months, 13 months?
Yeah, right?
Oh, please.
29 months. Yeah.
I don't know why moms do that. I mean, I'm a mom, and it's like, I wish I was good at quick math. Like, Eric's 13 years old. Somebody tell me, how many months is he? Like, I should still be saying, oh, he's 800 and blah, blah, blah months. But yeah, I don't get that.
48.
But let's talk about in-laws, because I just saw your wedding photos, and there was the buffet of different people and friends and personalities and stuff, and you could see that, and it seemed like everyone was having a great time. But as this book relates to life, how do you deal with each other's in-laws? I mean, like, how do we all deal with that for us who are in relationships?
Well, I'll say that we're blessed because our in-laws are great. And I'm not saying that because this is being recorded. Like, we really do have a good time together. My parents love him. I love his mom. We have a great relationship that we're, continuously building. So we really do enjoy each other. And we've talked about how that isn't the norm for everyone. But if there is an issue, I advise that you go through your spouse first, just because their relationship with their parents are different. They can speak to their parents in a different way. And you just, you don't want to cause rifts that can be long lasting, or that can, impact that relationship long term, and also your relationship, because it's inevitable that it will. If something happens like so overtly out of place in the moment, I would say, yeah, that spouse in that moment should set a boundary. But that is like an extreme thing, but if there is something that's like a little off-putting, like, definitely go through your spouse first. What do you say?
And what if the spouse doesn't want to speak up or doesn't defend you? I actually didn't have this issue, but I have a friend. No, but there's a lot. I know this friend who, no, and there's a lot of times where like different stronger mother-in-laws, especially, and the guy doesn't really want to say to his mom because he's still, that's not the relationship they have.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, so either you're protecting, you know, protecting your relation, he's protecting your relationship with you, or he's going against his relationship with his mom. And I do think it puts men in an incredibly awkward position. And I don't know, as a future mother-in-law to you know, I worry about that because, you know, do you feel like you need to take sides sometimes? Like what's it
Well,
like?
well, I'd love to speak on this question because a lot of times what happens, and I'm saying it's not just to you, but everybody who's listening, you will look at, okay, she wrote this book. It's about relationship. The relationship is still the relationship with self, right? So the relationship with me and my mother, nothing she can do can ever change what I can say to my mother and the relationship I have with my mother. So I had to go, and my mom said this at the wedding, like I had to go. I know my mom. She's a very, very protective mom of me. We're very close. I had to go to breakfast one day and said, Mom, I'm getting married. This is what I'm getting married to it. Take it or leave it. Like, because I knew what she was going to come with. She's going to come with everything to see why this woman is somebody that's going to take her place. And I wasn't about to do that. I had to tell her she is going to be this. So you have to make a decision. And I know my mom's not going to leave me on the coast. So she had to but it hurt for a second. She had to get over it. But if I did not do that, then now it's my responsibility to do that. I cannot do that with her mom or her dad. Now, me and her dad has had some very grown man conversations. Her dad is from Haiti. He's a no nonsense type of dude. And we've had some one-on-ones, and out of respect, we've had some really real man conversations. But at the end of the day, she has to be the one to keep her father at whatever place she wants to keep him. It's not my job to do that. And so, and it's not your job in your relationship to control that person and his mother. You have to then make a decision what type of life, because I didn't just marry her. I married everyone in her family, because when it's a birthday, we're involved. When someone's sick, we're involved. When someone's happy, we're involved. When they want to bless us with gifts, we're involved. So it goes both ways. You know, it's good and it can be a challenge. And we've had a lot of challenges in our first year, from health and surgeries from my mother, her mother, and a lot of things. And if you're not in with all of that, like we watched the show 90 Day Fiance, we watched a bunch of them. And he's like, one of the guys is like, I didn't marry your family, I just married you. And that can be farther than the truth. You married everything about them. Yeah, so that relationship still comes back to self. Are you ready to have a grown man or grown woman conversation with your mother? And if you're not, you're going to have to grow internally to be able to do that. Or on the flip side, I had to forgive someone in my family. I don't want to, if I hadn't I'll just say I haven't forgiven my dad, which Stephanie helped me realize that I had to do some forgiving before I could even get married. And I had to forgive myself as well for a lot of things, and also my father. So those are things that we have to realize, that sometimes it's not about a book or a person, it's about the inner conversation that a book or a person can bring out.
And I would say, jump in, I would say, that was great, babe. I would say for the spouse who's struggling, you have to really kind of create, I'm a visual person, so if we created like a hierarchy of what relationship is where, ideally your marriage or your relationship would be above the relationship with your family. And so in keeping that in mind, it's important that you support your spouse by honoring their needs. If you see, because I see this a lot and I hear this a lot of like, well, he doesn't want to say anything, or she doesn't want to say anything, and she makes excuses, or he makes excuses. That will really cause the demise of your relationship, because what that's saying to me is like, they're more important than me. And this is supposed to be like the money shot right here. So if I can't be number one, then that's a problem for me. We don't serve the same purpose. One doesn't wash out the other. To get a spouse doesn't mean your family's insignificant. It's just, how do we make all these moving parts work? But you have to prioritize your spouse, because if you don't, that emotional disconnect trickles into so many things. Like, if I'm not important enough, guess what? I'm not interested in cooking. I'm not interested in sex. I'm not interested in a lot of things, because you don't care about me.
Where are you going? Get back on this camera. She's interested in sex. It's okay.
Erin, we about to have
With you. Wait, let me clarify. She is interested in sex and
cooking too.
With you. She's interested in having sex with you, Ed.
And food.
That and food.
And food.
Okay.
She doesn't want to eat. She doesn't want to have sex. But with you, she now eats and she has sex with you.
You do both.
No one else. No one else. No one else. No one else. Let's hold up the book again. Let's say the book. Let's plug the book. Plug the book. Dun, da, da, da. Success, fully single, choice or destiny. Yay. Hey guys, hit us with some questions.
Yay.
How can I help you in your relationships, everyone?
Yes.
Read that.
So while we're waiting for the question, this is also a quick read. You know, we live in a society now where we have to listen to books on tape because of the convenience, because we don't have time. So I made this enough to be a quick read. Definitely working on, you know, part 2 of it, but don't be shy, because sometimes people say, oh, I don't have time to read. You do have time to read.
We have a question. Any advice? Whoa. Okay. Any advice on how to get your spouse to understand your love language? First of all, let's catch everybody. What's a love language? And then how do we get the spouse to know it?
Okay. You want to answer, or you want me to answer?
I'd like you to answer. I'll piggyback with a funny story, but you can answer.
So the love languages is a whole concept of how to love your spouse, a book written by Gary Chapman, where it discusses the 5 main love languages, which is words of affirmation, physical touch, quality time, gifts, and acts of service. And so it was designed for you to figure out what your love language was and what your spouse's love language was, and how to love each other in the way that you want to be loved. So sometimes, for example, if I love gifts, then we gift we love our spouse in the way we want to be loved, often without realizing it. So if I am a gifts person, I might gift my spouse a bunch of stuff, and I love you. Here, I'm showing you I love you. But if he likes acts of service, then, you know, maybe cooking might be a gift to him. Maybe, you know, getting his car detailed, or whatever the case may be. And here I'm giving him what I need. So the book is designed for you to see, hey, give me what I need, and I give you what you need, and let's take it off of us. Let's not gift each other love in the way that we want it, but in the way that you will receive it. So, and it's a great book, and it's been out forever, and it's something that is always a good read. So you should definitely check that out. First of all, what I would say for someone is talk about the love languages. It's still something that, even though it's very prevalent, a lot of people don't know about. So I would talk about your love languages with your spouse. And I would also get to a point where sometimes our spouses don't get it. It just depends. And I could break that down a million pieces of why they don't get it, or why there's an emotional block there. But you have to really express the damage. You have to express the damage of what that's doing if that person isn't valuing what your love language is and your needs. Because the thing is, if you're thirsty and your spouse doesn't give you water, you don't stop being thirsty. You're thirsty. So what that does is it increases the thirst, and it puts you in a very dangerous space to where now at some point when you get thirsty enough, you just start looking for water anywhere. And so the you know, the dude missing a tooth at the gas station told me I'm pretty today. Oh my God, thank you.
And he has water.
And he has water. I'm so thirsty.
No bug Jenkins.
And so,
oh, you're just killing me.
And
okay, listen.
And it's not to say that you look outside of your spouse. I will 100% not say that. But that is the frame of mind that people can get into. And if you're unwilling to be flexible, if you're unwilling to just learn how to love each other, why are you in the relationship? And you have to get to that point where it's so raw, because a lot of times we explain to our spouse, this is what I want, and that's it. And we hope, you know, specifically for women, we hope. Men don't get it. They often don't get it. We have to be very direct about it. We can't just give them a ball hoping they catch it. We literally have to chuck it at their heads. And so do that and say, this is damaging. This is how I feel. This is what my feelings are becoming, because it's like you don't really care about what I'm saying. You have to, that's what I would say. You have to really get raw and uncut with that type of feedback.
I definitely want to. that because I think the female species thinks that men are part of the X-Men. I think they think we all are mind readers. We were born with this mutant ability to understand what this long silence and pause and we don't understand what that means. Okay, so let's translate that right now. So communication, effective communication. I saw somebody ask, what is I saw somebody ask, what do they mean by intention? So let's talk about the love language, and we can talk about that now. I can talk about an issue that I had, so she does like gifts. I'm an act of service. We had an event, took her to an event, took her to a nice restaurant. We went to a nice thing, but I didn't get a card for this occasion. And she likes cards. I don't really care for cards too much. And so she was not happy about that. And she, kind of got quiet. And I was like, what's wrong? Nothing. You okay? I'm okay. You're fine. I'm fine. And I knew it wasn't. Right? They keep asking, right? So this is where my mind reading skills didn't work. So she eventually said, well, I wanted a card. Now we're at this beautiful place, right? I bought some wine, we did all these nice things, but she didn't get the water. She got 7-Up, she got some Dom Perignon, but she didn't get the water she wanted.
Which I love 7-Up.
That's a good analogy.
So, but then here's the intention part. She was in her feelings, which is valid, but she was not upset at me as a person to say, did he intentionally forget this day or forget to get me a card, or is he trying to hurt me by not giving me a gift? She knows that's not the case. She's understanding that I was doing what I felt was right, or what I was my love language. But that's what she means by intention. It's not always like hurting like physicals, because that's a no tolerance zone. Like physical and then levels of mental abuse too. Those are not what she's talking about. She's talking about miscommunication. But then I had to also realize that her being upset, and I get into it too. I'm sitting here and men will do this. We're like, really? We got this nice event, and this is how we're gonna go here. We're gonna mess up and ruin the night. The night is not ruined unless you allow something to ruin the future. So don't allow any conflict or issue to ruin future like enjoyment in a night. You just got to communicate, accept it, move on.
Gotcha. Okay. So Nicole asks, what tips do you have for staying connected through seasons of life? Having an almost 2-year-old leaves little time or energy for anything else.
Okay. So I would say finding, and that's difficult. I don't have kids yet, but that's difficult because, my sister has 3 kids and I love to be around them a lot. And sometimes I feel like I walk into a zoo because they're all over the place and they really take all the energy from parents. So what I would say is schedule a time. We're at the point where it doesn't sound so sexy, but instead of, change the way that you look at it. Instead of it being something that you're scheduling and, something that isn't, risky, choose to look at it as a way to look forward to something, kind of like a vacation, and schedule the time, get a sitter or, take a staycation or a vacation. It depends what your resources are. Some people can do that. Can't. If you can't do those things, usually at the end of the day, we kind of zone out. And so we're on our phones or we're on the computer. Take the time to say, you know what, even though I'm tired, Thursday night, I'm going to turn off the lights, put a low light on, warm up some massage oil, give each other a massage, even if it's just 10 minutes. Because it's about, especially with kids, it's about finding those little moments and creating those little moments, because you don't have them. You don't have an abundance of time like a person without children has, or a single person. So making those little moments count, because sometimes we discard those moments. We say, oh, okay, well, right. I only have 10 minutes. I would 10 minutes for my husband to give him a massage. He thinks it's the biggest thing in the whole world. And, so like really recognizing those little things, and then, using your resources. And I don't, I hear about the mom guilt all the time. And so this might not mean much coming from me because I'm not a mom yet, but you're better when you have something to give, your children including. Like, yourself when you're operating not at a great space. You have less patience for your kids. You might be grouchy, you yell, whatever. You have to think of taking some time for you. You have to I know it's difficult because I hear it all the time. You have to find a way to disassociate that negative guilt and realize that it's pouring into you so that you can pour into your child. And we don't want to get so caught up with the kids that we neglect our spouses, because then that brings a completely different issue up. So that's what I would say. What would
you know, you're kind of discounting, and I just, for people who don't know you on this interview, yes, you don't have kids yet, but you work with kids as a therapist every day. So come on. I mean, honestly, like you actually have a degree in it. So you know, really, like, so tell people what you do during the day. Like, who are you? Let's refresh.
Okay. So I have done, like I said at the beginning, I've done addiction, I've done transformation, I've done, severe mental health. I do private practice in terms of people who just want, I get emails all the time. I need help with relationships. I need help with XYZ, professional development, etc. So I do that. Currently, I veered into working with children, and a lot of times they have behavioral or emotional type of situations, mood disorders, etc. And it's very different, and it's very new even for me, because although I have experience with kids and I volunteered with kids, working with kids in this capacity is a different experience for me. And seeing, what their families are going through, what their parents are going through, and having to deal with a child who's a little more, who requires more. I won't say that a negative, but they require more. So that's the day to day.
Yeah. So
Yep.
Yep. So Chad wants to know, any thoughts on creating an ego-free environment in a relationship, and what kind of impact would that have on the couple? Ego.
That's a great question. There isn't space for ego in a relationship. And it really starts with the two people and having that conversation and being on the same page. Like, if you have someone who's egotistical and who really thrives off of that, and a lot of our negative character defects serve us in a certain way. So they have served us, therefore we feel like they're right. And we don't realize that they serve us in certain ways and they do a disservice in other ways. So having a conversation with your spouse about what the ego is doing to the relationship and how we can learn to remove that ego and be okay with that, and not tie in our value to our sense of pride or ego, because a lot of times it just damages the relationship. It creates the one up. It creates always having to be right. If we talk about the goal of the relationship, to be heard, to be valued, to be respected, to be honored, to have disagreements in a way that still leads to a fruitful relationship, there's really no space for ego in that. So having that conversation, setting that boundary, setting the bar, and then calling each other out. Like my husband and I, we talk about things we don't want to do. And mid-conversation, when we're, speaking passionately, he'll call it out. And even though in that moment I don't want to hear it, we talked about working on that. So I take a beat, like I stop, and vice versa. If he does something where he's like, I really don't want to do that anymore, and I say, you just did it, it might not be the sweetest way to say it, but he honors that, and he's like, okay, right, like I didn't want to. But you have to have two people willing. If you have a person who's like, hey babe, you said you didn't want to do that, and he's like, yeah, whatever, well then it's not gonna work. So setting the bar and making sure that people are on the same book, same chapter, same page, and then going from there.
Same book, same chapter, same page. Let's hold up the book.
Speaking of books,
pages and chapters, and where can we buy this again?
You could buy this. The signed copies, limited copies, are on iamsuccessfullyme.com. iamsuccessfullyme.com. And it's also on Amazon. You can look up Successfully Single, Choice, or Destiny. And it's also on Kindle, which is affiliated with Amazon as well. So
I got a question for you, Steph.
Okay.
Can you tell them a little bit about like what they can expect in the workbook side of the book, like what that is? And we did some workbook stuff prior to getting married. I don't know if you want to talk about that too, but just kind of some of the exercises and the takeaways that they can have outside of a great read.
Okay, so like I said, this book blends, my love for entertainment and my love for therapy. And so what I wanted to do was, this is like a little bit, my whole brand, because my brand is Successfully Me. I have a card game called Sip and Share, a fun way to be nosy. It's a conversation starter card game.
And we're going to play that tonight.
Okay.
We're going to get
Awesome.
back on the phone and we're going to play some tonight. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So
Okay, good.
the whole brand is a little bit sugar with medicine. People are still in this age where there's still this negative association with therapy. And it's really, it's really not a negative thing. And so here I am trying to create opportunities for people to have breakthrough and for people to go in depth without being guarded. If somebody says go into that therapist room, then they're like, oh, what is she going to say? Or what am I going to say? But if you're reading this book, or if you're, playing this card game, you're not expecting, some of the questions or some of the experiences. You're not expecting that. But me, I designed it that way. So I expect for you to have that. So even though I created the snapshot narrative of, these characters, and I wanted people to immerse themselves in these characters and really get it. And then part 2 takes you to me coaching, even though it's my name and it's me, it's still so engaging that it still falls into a story category. So the end of it, I create these last few pages. I created some workshop stuff workbook stuff that I think would be beneficial. I love stuff like that. I think writing things down, seeing it on paper really changes the experience, and it helps you to, do some work. When people say do the work, people are like, what is that? That is doing the work. That is challenging yourself. It's not just like feeling and believing, but it is kind of like jotting stuff down, looking to do different things. If we drafted a house, we would have to have a blueprint. So this is part of that blueprint. Right. So
okay,
part of this is, I have I am statements where I want people to write those down. I don't know if you can see that. Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking.
I have the me, myself, and I. So these questions are designed to increase the depth of relationship with yourself, because that's what it's about. Remember, working on the relationship with yourself is a gift that will keep on giving. So I have some questions and some areas for you to write that. I have the perfect pairing. So this kind of goes into, somebody else, questions of like what you'd ideally want in a spouse. I'm really big on self-care, like I said, with the moms, but this can go for everyone. If you don't fill your gas tank, you can't go anywhere and you can't give anybody a ride. So ways to treat yourself. I have, about 20 ideas of treating yourself, self-care 101, and, ways to kind of fill your own cup before filling someone else. And then there's a self-care log, because a lot of times if we don't give ourselves a target date or put ourselves on the hook to do something in some capacity, we won't do it. So I really want to promote people in putting in the self-care log, for Nicole, who asked about the how to have time. That could be something for you to work on in terms of writing down those 3 things that you're going to do for self-care, or something that you're going to do with your husband to get into the, frame of mind of, oh, let me write this down. Like, we feel good when we accomplish things. Instead of having that laundry list of stuff that we have to cross out, we can add to the list as we've done it. And it could be,
okay, I do that.
Yeah. So
I'll say like make bed, but I've already made the bed, but I still write it down so I can check it off.
Yep.
Just saying.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up now, because I want to rest your voice, because we're going to do this again tonight.
Yeah.
No, apparently we're going to keep talking.
Yeah.
Yes, Edmund?
One thing, she said, give the gift that keeps on giving. And I want to challenge people that are watching, to not just get one book. And I'm going to tell you why. Get more than one, because once you start reading it, you're going to want to talk about it with someone else, right? You're going to talk about, especially if you have a clique of girls or whatever, because I have 5 sisters, and they're going to all want to talk about it together, because they're going to talk about each other and how they saw each person up. So it's going to happen. Or what's going to happen, somebody's going to want to borrow your book, and you're never going to get it back.
Never get it back.
Yeah.
Never get it back.
Just get more than one. And if you have a signed copy, that's really going to suck. So make sure that you get more than one. Give it as a gift. There's always a holiday coming up, a birthday, a bachelorette party, or something like that. You always want to give a gift that can be stronger than the value the cost of it. So a $25 gift of this book could really change somebody's life or change their perspective in a relationship. So, get more than one, get the game, enjoy it. I'm sure you'll have a great time with it. And of course, comment on this video if you liked it, if you enjoyed this. That will be something that Stephanie would appreciate. I'm so proud of her and happy for her. We're going to light a cigar and celebrate a little bit later tonight on the launch. And so many people want to write a book and never get the chance to do it or never make it a priority as she did. So really proud of her for that. So support and thank you, Erin, for interviewing her. And
My pleasure.
I just want to encourage people to get more books. Get more books.
Okay.
Well, and also too, you know what? It's true. We want to sell a lot of books, but I looked at the sales. I peeked in, and it's doing beautifully. It's selling. So a lot of people are already doing this even before this stunning interview that we've conducted. So, yeah, we're gonna have fun tonight. We're already at the hour mark, and so I want to be conscious of people's time. But we're gonna do sip and share tonight, which is your card game. And if people want to submit questions, and it's kind of like a scruples game. It's fun, and I just think we're gonna have some fun.
Yeah,
maybe a little wine. I don't know, but it'll be fun. So
we'll be on
please
at 7
come back and join us later. And Stephanie, this was such an honor. Thank you for asking me to interview you.
Of course, I wouldn't want anybody else.
All right. See you tonight.
All right.
Come back, everyone. Bye. What, Steph?
No, I said thanks for watching.
Oh, thanks for watching. Okay. Bye.
Bye.